2 days after her father's funeral, Claire Bennett sat inside a quiet lawyer's office staring at the people she once called family. Her older brother Marcus sat across from her with a calm smile. His wife Diane sat beside him. Claire was still wearing the black dress from the funeral. She thought this meeting would be painful. She never imagined it would destroy everything she believed about her family. The lawyer, Richard Cole, opened a thick folder. "Your father changed his will before his death." Claire's heart stopped. "Most of his estate will go to Marcus." Claire stared at her brother. "The house?" "Marcus." "The company?" "Marcus." "The investment accounts?" "Marcus." "And what did my father leave me?" Richard looked down. "Very little." Marcus finally spoke. "Claire, Dad made his choice." "That doesn't make sense." Marcus shrugged. "Not everything has to make sense to you." "So why would he suddenly remove her from his inheritance?" Claire looked at the date on the will. "Richard, when was this signed?" The lawyer hesitated. 3 weeks before your father passed." Claire's face changed. "That can't be right." Marcus frowned. "Why?" "Because Dad was in the hospital that entire week." Nobody answered. Claire looked from Marcus to Richard. Her father had been too weak to hold a cup of water. Yet somehow he had signed a major new will. Diane quickly interrupted. "Maybe Claire is just having trouble accepting reality. I'm trying to understand it." Diane smiled coldly. "You should be grateful. Your father already helped you enough." Those words cut deep. Claire looked down at the documents. Then she noticed something strange. A second file sat underneath the will. It was sealed. Her name was written across the front. "What is that?" Richard's expression changed. Marcus suddenly sat upright. Richard placed one hand over the envelope. "It's a private letter." "From my father?" "Yes." "Why wasn't it mentioned?" Richard looked at Marcus. "Because your father gave very specific instructions." Marcus immediately stood. "Richard, that letter is not part of the inheritance." The lawyer remained calm. "I know." "Then don't open it." Claire stared at her brother. For the first time that day, Marcus looked afraid. Claire reached toward the envelope. Marcus stepped forward. "Claire, don't." She stopped. "Why?" Marcus said nothing. Richard placed the envelope in front of her. This was meant to be opened only after the family accepted the will. Claire looked at the signature. It was her father's handwriting. She touched it with trembling fingers. Marcus whispered, "If you open that letter, this family will never be the same." Claire looked at him. Then she smiled. She opened the envelope. And inside was the first clue that her father had known exactly what Marcus was planning. The silence in the office shattered when Claire folded the paper. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. "Claire, hand that over. You have no right to keep family documents." Diane looked at Richard. "Richard, tell her. You can't let her walk away with unverified papers." Lawyer Richard Cole closed his file. His face was pale. "I warned you, Marcus. Your father stated the letter was personal property, meant solely for Claire once the will was presented." "You coward," Marcus hissed. He turned to Claire, softening his voice. "Claire, listen. Dad was out of his mind. He was confused. Whatever he wrote is just the rambling of a sick old man. Don't let a paper destroy us." Claire looked at her brother. For 28 years she had trusted him. But seeing the raw fear in his eyes, the illusion shattered. She felt the paper against her chest. Her father's words echoed, "Finish what I started." "If it's just the rambling of a sick man, Marcus, you have nothing to worry about," Claire said quietly. "If you contest this, we will tie you up in legal fees until you have nothing left," Diane shouted. Claire walked straight out. Behind her, Marcus screamed her name as a fierce argument broke out. Outside, the cold air hit her face. It was 2:15 p.m. Marcus would head straight to their father's house to search for evidence. She had to get there first. She hailed a taxi. 1042 Elmwood Manor, please hurry. During the drive, Claire processed the betrayal. Her father, Arthur, was a sharp man. Realizing his own son was betraying him while he lay bedridden broke her heart, but it filled her with cold resolve. At the estate, Claire used her key card at the side entrance. The scanner beeped green. She slipped inside the quiet house and moved toward her father's study. In the corner stood a tall grandfather clock. Claire opened the cabinet door. She reached behind the pendulum, feeling the dark wood. Her fingers touched something taped inside. It was a silver key stamped with a number, 408. Beside it was a thumb drive with a note. The key opens box 408 at First National Bank. The drive holds access logs to shadow accounts. Marcus bribed Richard to falsify my records. Go to Detective Miller at the 4th Precinct. Do not go home. Suddenly, tires screeched outside. Claire looked through the window. A black SUV had pulled up. Marcus and 2 guards stepped out, rushing toward the entrance. Marcus had a master key. Claire's exit was blocked. Claire's heart slammed against her ribs as the front door creaked open downstairs. Marcus's sharp voice echoed through the hallway. Search the main rooms. Get that bag from her. Claire looked around the study. The door was locked, but it wouldn't hold them. Thinking fast, she rushed to the wooden bookcase. She pushed a hidden brass latch behind a row of books. A narrow panel opened with a quiet click. It was an old servant passage her father had shown her. She squeezed inside and pulled the panel shut just as Marcus kicked the study door open. "Claire! I know you're in here!" Marcus roared, his footsteps heavy on the floor. Claire held her breath in the pitch-black corridor, moving silently down the dusty stairs. She burst out through a side door and hailed a passing bus on the main road. 20 minutes later, Claire arrived at First National Bank. She walked to the vault counter and presented the silver key stamped 408. The bank manager checked his computer screen. His face turned stiff. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. Marcus Bennett filed a legal injunction an hour ago. All family-related safe deposit boxes are currently frozen." Claire's stomach dropped. "That's impossible! This box belongs to my father!" "Marcus is listed as the primary executor," the manager explained. "No assets can be accessed." Before Claire could argue, high heels clicked loudly across the floor. Diane stepped up beside her with a smug smile. "Did you really think you were smarter than us, Claire? Marcus tracked your taxi." Claire turned, her eyes burning. "You forged a sick man's signature, Diane. That's a crime." "Good luck proving that without money," Diane whispered coldly. "Marcus just froze all your personal bank accounts, too. You have no lawyers, no money. You're completely penniless." Diane walked away, her laughter echoing in the lobby. Claire sat on a bench outside, clutching her purse. Her brother had taken everything: her father, her home, her money, and her legal rights. She pulled out her father's old pocket watch. She opened the back casing, looking at his picture inside. Suddenly, she noticed tiny numbers carved into the gold lid. B702 TV Trust. Claire froze. The silver key wasn't for box 408 at all. Box 408 was a decoy her father set up to trick Marcus. Her father had created a separate private trust under an alias, V Trust. The real evidence was in Vault B712. Claire didn't waste a second. She took a deep breath, stood up from the bench, and walked back inside the bank, heading straight for the private vault section. She requested access to Vault B72 under the name V Trust. The clerk checked the system, smiled politely, and led her to a private room. Inside the vault box was a thick black folder, a digital voice recorder, and an original signed trust deed. Claire opened the folder. The medical reports were right there. certified blood tests and doctor notes proving her father had been completely unconscious on the day the fake will was allegedly signed. Even better, the voice recorder contained a clear conversation between Marcus and lawyer Richard Cole. She pressed play and heard her brother's voice fill the room. "Just fake the signature, Richard. He won't survive the week anyway, and I'll double your cut." Tears of anger filled Claire's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. She had everything she needed. Instead of running to the police immediately, Claire knew she had to play this carefully. She contacted Detective Miller at the 4th Precinct, her father's trusted friend. Detective Miller examined the evidence in his office. "This is an ironclad fraud case, Claire," he said, adjusting his glasses. "We can arrest Marcus today, but his high-priced lawyers will post bail and drag this out in courts for years." Claire shook her head. "No, I don't want him to just get a fine or a slap on the wrist. I want him exposed completely so he can never recover." Claire devised a plan. In 3 days, Bennett Enterprises was throwing its annual grand gala. Marcus was planning to officially announce his takeover as the new CEO in front of all major investors, board members, and news media. Claire secretly arranged a private meeting with lawyer Richard Cole. When she played the audio recording of his voice, the lawyer collapsed into his chair, shaking with panic. "If you want to stay out of prison, Richard, you will do exactly as I say at the gala," Claire whispered coldly. Richard nodded frantically, terrified the trap was set. The grand ballroom of the city's top hotel was packed with prominent business leaders, board members, and reporters. Banners reading "Welcome CEO Marcus Bennett" hung from the tall marble pillars. Marcus stood near the stage, sipping champagne beside Diane. He looked confident and victorious. "Tonight, the empire is officially mine," he whispered to his wife with a satisfied smile. At 8 p.m., Marcus stepped up to the main podium. The heavy lights focused on him as the crowd quieted down. "Thank you, everyone," Marcus began, smiling warmly at the cameras. "My late father built this company with vision and hard work. Before he passed, he placed his full trust in me to lead Bennett Enterprises into the future." Suddenly, the large screens behind the stage flickered and went dark. The crowd gasped. Marcus frowned, tapping the microphone. "Excuse me, we seem to have a technical glitch." A clear, steady voice echoed through the high-end speakers. "It's not a glitch, Marcus. It's the truth." The room fell dead silent as Claire walked calmly into the center aisle. She was wearing a stunning dark red suit, holding a small remote control in her hand. Marcus's face turned pale. "Security! Get this woman out of here. She is emotionally unstable." "Let her speak," a top board member shouted from the front table. Claire pressed a button. The giant screens lit up, displaying the certified medical records from her father's hospital stay, showing 0 brain activity on the day the fake will was signed. Before Marcus could react, the audio recording began playing loudly through the ballroom. Marcus's own voice blasted across the room. "Just fake the signature, Richard. He won't survive the week anyway, and I'll double your cut." Gasping and whispers erupted across the entire venue. Diane hid her face from the flashing media cameras. Then came the biggest twist of the night. Lawyer Richard Cole walked onto the stage, holding an official court document. "As the legal executor, I confess to conspiracy and fraud," Richard said clearly into the microphone. "This will is fake. Arthur Bennett transferred 90% of all core company shares into a private trust for Claire months before his death." Marcus staggered backward, slamming into the podium. The ballroom exploded into chaos. Reporters frantically snapped photos as board members stood up in outrage, demanding Marcus's immediate resignation. Marcus grabbed the edges of the podium, his face bright red. "This is a lie. It's a setup. Security, arrest her." "Nobody is arresting her, Marcus," a stern voice echoed from the entrance. Detective Miller walked down the aisle accompanied by 4 armed police officers. He held up a red folder. Marcus Bennett, Diane Bennett, and Richard Cole. You are under arrest for grand larceny, bank fraud, and conspiracy. Diane began to scream as the cold handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Marcus tried to push past the officers toward the back exit, but 2 detectives tackled him to the floor, restraining him in front of the flashing news cameras. As Marcus was dragged past Claire, he looked at her with wild, desperate eyes. "Claire, please, we're family! You can't do this to me!" Claire looked down at him with a calm, unbothered expression. "You destroyed this family the day you traded Dad's trust for greed. Enjoy your new life." 3 months later, the justice system finished what Arthur Bennett had started. The fake will was officially voided by the court. Marcus and Diane were sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, and lawyer Richard Cole lost his license permanently along with serving a 4-year term. To pay off the massive legal fines, Marcus's personal assets were seized, leaving him completely bankrupt. Claire officially stepped into the corner office at Bennett Enterprises as the new owner and chief executive. She cleaned out the corrupt board members and restored her father's honest legacy. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Claire visited her father's resting place. She laid a fresh bouquet of white roses on the gravestone and pulled out her father's old pocket watch. She opened the lid, smiling softly as the gentle ticking filled the quiet air. She had protected his name, saved his legacy, and proven that justice always wins in the end.